Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
My name is Ryan Pinney, and I am 41 years old.
What story are you here to share?
I'm here to share my story, which is a story about spinal cord injury and the dark days, the bad days, but it's a story about overcoming those days.
Who do you hope hears this?
I hope those that hear this are those that have had a traumatic experience happen to them, those that may feel like their future may be bleak, and those that need encouragement to get through those and their tough times.
Welcome to our next episode of Learn from People Who Lived It. I have an interesting relationship with our next guest. We met because of his idea to propose to his now wife. And then there was the accident, the reason that we're here today. Now, what's about to happen is three men are going to talk about their feelings. Feelings about not being able to walk, feelings about winning a medal at last year's Paralympics, and so much more. I love calling this dude a friend. His name is Ryan, and I welcome you to Learn from People Who Lived It. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? I'm very happy to be here and share my journey.
I know. I'm excited, too. Dr. Frank Bavacqua, as always, along for the ride. Dr. Frank, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I bet you are, man. Dr. Frank Bavacqua, in his off time, Ryan, is a avid softball player. I mean, nearly professional. And so to say that sport is something he's interested in is an understatement. And so I think that the two of you are going to have a very interesting connection with regard to sport and competition, which is something that we're going to get into a little bit later on. Ryan, I love starting every podcast with the first 10 years of people's lives. Gives us a good snapshot of like who you are, how you operate, what's going down. So do you mind walking us through that a little bit, man? Talk about your mom, dad, brothers, sisters, family dynamics.
I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. My mom was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and my dad was also from Phoenix, but not born here. They split up when I was very young, probably 3 or 4 years old. I had an older brother, Jason, and after their split, my mother got remarried. So I've got another younger brother and a younger sister from her side. And on my dad's side, I have another younger brother in Jake. So early on, I didn't know what my family dynamic was because the family dynamic was very normal. I thought everybody's parents were split. I thought everybody's lights went off when they were young. I thought everybody was poor. So I didn't know what normal was. And I remember coming home and just feeling loved. That was the big thing, is feeling loved. I'd come home and our lights would be out because my mom couldn't pay the bill. And there'd be a candle on, and she would tell us, me and my older brother at the time, she would tell us we were going to eat dinner under candlelight tonight, and made it an adventure, made it fun, made it seem like that was a choice. And I remember coming home later on after the lights would become back on, and I'd come to my mom, turn off the lights, and be like, Mom, can we do candlelight dinner again? And she'd made it feel like it was normal, never knowing that the lights were turned off because we couldn't get them on. Even though my parents were split, I did split time between my mom and my dad. My dad was very, very loving. He never had to tell me. He did, but he never had to tell me that he loved me. But I came from actually a very loving family, even though they were split, and had a very, very good support system, even though I didn't realize the difficulties that we may have had.
So it sounds like your parents did a really good job, Ryan, of doing that thing that can be so awful in divorce, which is putting the kids in the middle. It sounds like both your mom and dad made a real concerted effort to make sure that the love really continued. Did you ever feel the turmoil of their divorce?
Honestly, I really didn't. There was one memory that I do have of them arguing, but that was before I know that they got divorced, but that was a very, very early memory. But no, they never shared their turmoil with me. And in fact, they, for some reason, remained friends. I remember my mom getting birthday cards in the mail from my dad, and my dad getting birthday cards in the mail from my mom, just for fun, because it seemed like it was more amicable than anything.
Dr. Frank Bavacqua, I got to bring you in right here, right now, because it may seem so crystal clear and so obvious to so many people right now, but what a great choice mom and dad make here, right, during this breakup to make sure that things actually, it's almost like they ramped it up a little bit. Did you get that impression too, Dr. Frank Bavacqua?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm thinking, Ryan made so many comments about like, oh, I didn't realize this was normal. I didn't realize this was not normal, whatever. Like, to experience that kind of an upbringing from divorced parents, I wish it was a whole lot more common. But unfortunately, we hear a lot of negative stories about how mom and dad handled things, and I don't think you ever really want to get divorced. But if there was such thing as divorce goals, this this kind of sounds like it.
Okay, let's move on. When do you, as a man, decide you're going to make a leap and you want a career in the military?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't. I really didn't want a career in the military. I graduated high school, was supposed to go to NAU. That got pulled back. My parents decided that they wanted me to not go to take a semester off because they didn't think that I was ready for it. I wasn't very happy about that, so I kind of cut ties with my parents a little bit. Not really too hardcore, but just was not very happy about it. I got a job as a valet at the Arizona Biltmore, and over the Christmas holiday, January-ish timeframe, a bellman at the time, one of my bosses, looked at me and he said, "Ryan, I just want you to think about this. Don't be 29 years old, trying to finish your college degree, and standing out front of a hotel." And that's a statement that I've held with since I was 18 years old. And that bellman, I don't even know his name, doesn't even understand the impact that he made on me, because 2 weeks after that, I was enlisted, flying out to basic training for the Air Force.
Are you looking back on your Air Force time? What does that experience mean to you?
I didn't realize how good it was until I was out. I was 6 years active duty, was in Spokane, Washington, and I was an in-flight refueler. I got deployed. I got to travel the world, but during that entire time, I always wanted to come back home. I wanted to make money for college, and I wanted to do the minimum that I had to do. I signed up for a minimum of 6 years, which is actually a long first stint, and then came back home and became part of the Arizona Air National Guard, which I absolutely loved, and it's a unit that I hold dear to my heart. But once I came back, I had a recollection and a realization of how much I actually enjoyed Spokane, and how much I enjoyed the Air Force, and traveling and doing what I did, and the structure and support. I don't want to say structure in a bad way, but the support of the structure.
When do you decide that Megan is going to be a part of your life in the capacity of your girlfriend? Let's get to that moment, because that marches us a little closer to where we're headed.
You know what? It was just a chance encounter. I had come home from a deployment and I had jet lag. A buddy of mine asked me to go to a movie, and I saw this beautiful woman who I'd never seen him with before, and thought that he might have been dating her. Luckily, they were just friends. They had gone to college together, and just started flirting with her. I honestly, looking back at it, I knew I wanted to date this girl right away. It's not that there was any question about it. It was just trying to do the right thing and not show too much interest, but show just enough interest. A couple days later, after getting her number, I just knew, because we had spent, I don't know, that who doesn't do this when they're young and in love, spend 6 hours on the phone just talking about nothing.
But everything, all in the same breath. How old are you when you meet her?
Let's see. It was back in 2008. So I was roughly 27, 28 years old.
Dr. Frank, I want to bring you in real quick. Just hit the pause button here. So now we're getting ready to get with the girl that he's going to marry. You come from a divorced family. I think maybe it's worth just having a little conversation, the three of us right now, about hopes, dreams, and fears, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I would imagine when you come from a family where mom and dad divorce, you feel a sense of like, I really don't want that to happen for me. So let's just have a little round table right now about that. Is there any truth to that statement I just made, Ryan?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the fears that I had, especially early on, was that I didn't want to screw it up. I knew that I was only going to have one relationship in my life, and I still know that I'm only going to have one relationship in my life, a committed relationship, because I don't want to do the same thing that my parents did.
So, Dr. Frank, speak on that. Where do we get ourselves into trouble sometimes? Because you and I have interviewed loads of people along the way whose circumstances just keeps on getting repeated and just keeps getting repeated and just keeps getting repeated, right? Generation after generation. So, I mean, how do you step in and, I don't want to say break a cycle, but do something different?
Well, and I think Ryan started to, answer that question for us, right? He made a sort of a conscious choice that he recognized what happened. He didn't want to repeat that. But yeah, you're right. We've talked to so many people who sort of unknowingly repeated some family pattern, later in their own life. And then obviously not a good one, not a healthy one that they wish they didn't repeat. I think that's why I love that we do this podcast, because we get to talk about things and sort of bring to light and hopefully bring to awareness, for some people out there that are listening. And maybe they can recognize the different things that are happening so that they don't repeat it. Because step one is you have to recognize it. And then step two, you have to make that decision to say, I'm not going to repeat it, and I'm going to do specific things in the opposite direction to make sure that that doesn't happen.
So here I explained at the onset of the podcast, Dr. Frank Bavacqua, that Ryan and I know each other, and the reason that we know each other is really cool and kind of interesting. So I'm doing my morning show in Phoenix, Arizona, and an email comes into me, and it's from then Ryan. I don't know what year it was. What year did you get engaged?
2011. It was the engagement happened October 2012. So it was 2012, yes.
Okay.
And so it was probably around August-ish.
Yeah. Do you remember what you said to me in the email?
Not exactly, but I mean, I kind of remember a little bit.
He was basically looking for me to help him orchestrate like a huge flash mob, because flash mobs had just started coming out, and they were like,
those were big.
They were the coolest things in the world. Remember?
Yeah.
And so he was like, hey, I have this idea. I want to dance and do the thing. And then I want to propose to Megan. And I immediately, I don't even think it was a hesitation. I replied back right away. I was like, game on. I love everything about this. What are we going to do next?
Yes. And I remember I was deployed at the time. So I'm writing to you from a deployed location at the time as well.
It's worth noting. And you come home, we orchestrate the effort. We're at Kierland. She's out there with her sister and her mom, if I'm not mistaken. And you guys and how many other people go to work and start this flash mob?
Oh, I did an email, a mass email with her friends and her family, probably 25 people. We ended up getting a choreographer and worked on it for a good solid month.
Wow.
It's amazing. And he's in another country, like you're deployed, right? You're not home. So all of this is happening through email and stuff, right?
Right. That's correct.
Oh my God. This story is so freaking amazing. And so everybody learns a thing. We're at Kierland, boom, it goes down. And of course she says yes. And you guys are engaged to be married, dude. And the whole thing is in front of you, isn't it?
Yeah, everything is in front of me. I have one more deployment to do, not a long one, probably about 45 to 60 days at that point, and then marriage for the rest of our lives.
What day are you on that bike?
July 12th, 2012. That's the day.
So July 12th, 2012. What was happening to you that morning? You wake up to do what? So
that day I had two different races, two different bikes that I'm racing, a cruiser and a 20-inch. And in the cruiser class, I had just finished third. I'm ready. I'm feeling good, hyped up. I take that bike to my truck, grab the other one, run to the starting gate, find out that I'm in lane 8, and gate drops. I hit the first berm, come around, another cyclist hits my front wheel. I get crossed up and I go over the handlebars. I'm just thinking, tuck your head, protect the head. And as I land, I just feel a pop, feel the wind get knocked out of me, and that's about it. No more pain. I just think the wind's knocked out of me, and I think everything is okay, but it's not.
It's got to be moments later, Ryan, that you realize that you can't feel your legs, correct?
Yeah, it's very short moments later. I mean, I remember looking up at the track coordinator, the EMT that's standing next to me, and saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. These are the exact words I say. I'm okay. Just push my legs down. And he just looks at me all puzzled. Push my legs down. Never mind. I'll do it myself. And I look and I realize my legs are already on the ground. And that's when the shock kind of comes in. The coldness goes through your body of what just happened. And this is not good.
Are you able to articulate how it feels?
I don't know if you can articulate how it feels, because it's just a mental thing at that point. Like, you don't feel a break. You don't feel, there is no pain. There really is no pain. Yet at the same time, you're injured, and it's just trying to wrap your mind around something when, at that point, my whole life is flashing before my eyes.
Ryan, like we've said, and kind of been painting this picture all along, man, you're an active dude. And it's a testament to what you just committed to and achieved in the Paralympics, which is a fantastic moment that we're going to full circle and get to a little bit later on. But let's assume that there's a lot of people listening to this podcast right now who have found themselves, would you call it, you say, a spinal cord injury? But there's paralysis. How do you define it to people? Because, this is so much of where society gets tripped up. We don't know what to say, so we don't say anything. And then nobody wins. So we just got to figure out, ask messy questions and articulate these things. And I hope you understand that's what I'm trying to do. What do you declare? I have paralysis. I have a spinal cord injury that left me with paralysis. Like, what do you say, Ryan?
Just like you said in the latter, it's a spinal cord injury that made me a paraplegic. That made me paralyzed from essentially the waist down. Now each it's not necessarily the waist down, but that's kind of the general term. Neck down, or for quadriplegic, or paraplegic for waist down. But depending on where the break is exactly in what vertebrae is dependent upon where it's either pectoral area, navel area, waist area. But yeah, it's paralysis. So I got a spinal cord injury, and a spinal cord injury, for the most part, not always gives you paralysis of some portion of the body.
Well, let's talk about that for just a little while longer, because Dr. Frank, you don't know this, but Ryan, right after that, was very involved in, it was a pretty aggressive therapy, if memory serves, out on the West Coast, where you guys were trying some things to try to get feeling back, to try to get some motion back. Can you walk us through what you were trying to accomplish there?
I think with everybody that gets paralyzed, and I can't speak for everybody, but I'll try to generalize it. We don't want to believe the words "you'll never walk again," and you want to be that one that, because there's stories out there. You get paralyzed, and oh, it's not going to happen to me. I'm going to define the odds. I'm going to beat the odds. So you try to find whatever treatment you can, or procedure, or workout, or whatever. You're looking for the magic pill, and I think that's what we want. So I went to a place out in San Diego, and tried to work on some aggressive therapy to get the legs start, the motor neurons back, and get the brain talking to the spinal cord injury below the injury site again.
As you're going through these treatments, this is where learn from people who lived it, to me, is different from anything else, because we're going to talk about it right here, right now. You had an amazing upbringing, and I think Dr. Frank Bevacqua would agree with me that amazing upbringing, all that love you felt growing up, completely prepared you for this moment ahead. That doesn't mean you didn't go through all of the emotions. And before we jumped on, Ryan, Dr. Frank and I were kind of talking about how some things are just universal, right?
Yeah, just the loss of identity. There's so many different things that can happen to us in life that changes the way that we have to sort of see ourselves. And Ryan obviously went through a huge one of those, but in different ways. We all go through something like that at some point, and it's hard.
It is. And Ryan and I talked about this in kind of our pre-interview that you know, you're in a space where you tend to just talk about this to other people who are in a similar position, because we all kind of feel like other people don't really understand. Let's get into the deep end of the pool here, Ryan. Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you suicidal?
You know, I'm not suicidal. I never was suicidal, but despair, yes. In dark places at times, yes. Always, no. But I mean, there are days still to this day I'm angry. I get angry. I wake up and I'm like, man, they're still not here. Especially early on. And I don't know if it was necessarily that I wasn't beating the odds. I never wanted to be a burden on anybody. And that's where it goes into to my now wife. I didn't want to be a burden on her. And I didn't want to let her down by not being the one that didn't walk again. I was supposed to be the one that beat the odds. We were supposed to have the amazing story about how he was the one that never gave up, you know, and the stories are always told that this guy was told that he wasn't going to walk. This guy was told that he was going to die of cancer. This guy was told that he was going to do whatever, but they overcame those ones, you know, but that's all that recovery was to me early on, was walking. That was recovery. And I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to let my family down of not walking again.
You said something so amazing there, Ryan. You said to me, recovery was walking. And I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the emotion in your voice. You've since learned that that's not what recovery is it?
Oh, recovery is, today I am recovered. You know, recovery is breaking through the walls of your mental state. It's not being able to do the same things that you did before a traumatic experience.
Dr. Frank Bavacqua, I'm bringing you in right now because, like you said, some of these things are absolutely universal. And you spoke to it a moment ago, this idea of an identity, what you are, how you perceive the world. So, oh man, what are you feeling? What's going on in your head right now?
The piece I think that struck me is, and again, it's a universal thing. We make these assumptions about what we think other people want or need from us, or who we want to be for them. And a lot of times we're wrong, right? If we actually ask the question, what they want is for us to be happy, or maybe to find some renewed purpose, or to get better at being present again every day, instead of, you know, longing for what was. A lot of times they want something different than what we thought they wanted for us. And I wonder, did you ever have that conversation with her? Did you ever?
Yes, that's a great question. And yes, I did. And that was early on, being in the hospital bed, going through inpatient recovery. It was a late night. That's when the demons come, right? Is in late nights, and both of us are having our emotions, or we're both grieving, crying. I'll never forget that night. And I just looked at her and I said, you can go. Like, I don't want to be a burden to you. You can go. I want you to have everything. And she looked at me and responded with, I want you. And this doesn't have to change you. I want you to be who I fell in love with. And as long as this doesn't change who I fell in love with, I'm sitting here right by your side. And she has been there ever since. That day, for me personally, I knew that I was the rock in our relationship, right? I mean, I was the man in the relationship. I was the leader in the relationship. But that day I realized I may be the rock in the relationship, but she's the boulder in our relationship. She's under surface level that's keeping this rock up. And she was a big much bigger part of the relationship than I ever even dreamed possible.
I think when we're the other person, somebody near us just lost something or went through something, there's so many times that we want to fix it and make it better. And a lot of times we are stuck realizing that we can't do nearly as much as we want to do. But it sounds like those 3 words, when she responded to you, Ryan, I want you, those were the only 3 words in that moment that you needed to hear. And that gave you, it sounds like that gave you everything you needed in that moment. And it's crazy, right? There's so many times where we try to do so much for somebody, and sometimes all we need to hear is that they're still here with us, and how they see us hasn't changed. Because there's
took
that
a
process.
lot of weight off his shoulders, wouldn't you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. I'm guessing, I don't know, Ryan, you tell us, but there has to be that sigh of relief that, okay, if I lost the use of my legs, I lost the ability to walk, and I lost all the things that come with that, I don't want to lose this woman now too, but I'm willing to let her go for her, and to realize in that moment that you're not going to lose her too. That has to be a relief.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If she would have said to me, I understand, I probably would have gotten upset. I probably would have gotten frustrated because she doesn't understand, if she would have said, we're going to get through this, then I probably would have gotten frustrated and upset. But in fact, when she said, I want you, it was no matter what happens, no matter where this takes us, where this journey goes, I'm with you. And I'm walking side by side with you. That was huge, because she didn't try to tell me that she understood what I was going through.
I want to ask, because I remember some of those transitional moments, Ryan. I remember, your house kind of getting reorganized, and some of your friends and family and builders coming in to make things more accessible for you, and all of the transitional parts that come with, your spinal cord injury. Now that you're able to look back on it a few years later, as you said, as a guy who's kind of overcome a lot of this stuff mentally, how'd you do? How did you do during that process?
That was tough. I'll be honest with you. I'm not one that wants people to help me, but I'm very appreciative of it, So it was very tough. And it was a big learning process. I had to realize that asking for help is not a weakness. Asking for help and accepting help is actually a strength. And it's not just okay, it's a strength, because we all need to help each other out through this world, no matter what's going on. And that was what was big for me, is I might not have my legs, but I know there are other people that do, that can help us out with what we need to get done around the house. And asking for help is a huge, huge strength.
For those of us that I think have wrapped our heads around that experience, and understanding that asking for help and accepting help is a strength rather than a weakness, compared to those who maybe hear that and don't necessarily buy in, and honestly, they're going to call bullshit on it. There are people out there listening right now that are probably on both sides of that fence. Those of us that know what we know and agree with you. And there are some people who maybe aren't ready to accept that. How did you wrap your head around understanding that it is actually a strength rather than a weakness? Because there's somebody out there who needs to hear how you made it happen so that they can make it happen.
Patience, honestly, patience, because I didn't want help. I mean, I remember even being in inpatient therapy, having somebody who's a therapist trying to help me get into a wheelchair, show me how to get into a wheelchair, and they have legs. And I'm just looking at them going, are you kidding me? You have the leg muscles, but at the same time, they're trying to help me, figure it out, trying to show me and teach me how to get into my car from a chair. And yet I'm looking at them going, you can just stand up and do it. But this is not the same, It was finally that peer-to-peer interaction, having somebody who's been there, who's done it, show me, hey, dude, you can get in the truck. You can get in a truck that's lifted. Let me show you how to do it. And this is how I do it. And then having somebody else who's had their house modified. Peer-to-peer engagement is really, really um, beneficial, because just having my wife, yeah, she said, I'm with you, but having my wife say, hey, we're going to accept this from people, or, hey, you need to ask so-and-so, you just can't do it. You just can't do it because I'm supposed to be able to do this or do that or do this, it's finally seeing somebody else who's gone through it, not going through it currently, but gone through it and say, hey, dude, this is what you need to do. It's not about beating around the bush anymore. It's a peer telling me finally, hey, you can do it. And this is what you need to do it. So shut up and do it.
It's that simple and that direct, and it is the most difficult thing you'll ever do, right? Because I think what Dr. Frank is alluding to earlier, and what you already know, Ryan, is that, when you go through, I mean, listen, I was 23 years old, Ryan, when my dad dropped dead in front of me and had a heart attack, right? And I picked him up out of his chair, I laid him down, I tried to give him CPR, and I couldn't save my father. Try to think of something more fucked up than that. I mean, go, right? There's watching your own dad die is just it was a really unbelievable experience. And it wasn't until I did a lot of work around that I realized that story was owning me. It was owning kind of the way that I operated. And so similar in a way to, let's segue at least to your injury. And that's a story that can really own you. I could imagine that you could get really pissed off and you're going to be the guy who just can't walk and here's all the shit I can't do anymore, and you could focus on that. But then there does become that moment where you have to flip the switch and you got to say, oh, okay, but hold on, there are a million things I can do. So can you please speak to that moment and or some of the moments surrounding the decision to finally get a hold of your story and decide that you were going to, make this work?
Yeah. One of them is 3 months after I got hurt, barely out of inpatient rehab, barely out of some therapies. I had an organization give me a hand cycle. I didn't know what a hand cycle was. I didn't know what hand cycling. I didn't know you could ride a bike with your arms. And they had raised money to get me a hand bike to get me out on the road again. And they told me that part of accepting this was I was going to ride the ride with them the next year, which is a 430-mile ride, raising money for wounded service members and their families. And if you accept this, you're accepting the challenge to ride this ride with us next year. And not one to back down from a challenge. I accepted the bike and went, oh, okay, what did I just get myself into? But it gave me something to do rather than just sit at home and focus on my legs coming back, focus on getting quote unquote recovered in the way I thought I needed to recover. That's one spot.
So then what's the next step of that? How does that progress into actually, okay, I'm going to make a decision and this is what I do now?
Well, for me, it was realizing that this new hobby / activity brought joy to my life. It was freeing for me and it made me smile. No matter how hard it was, no matter what I sacrificed, no matter what I was focusing on, I enjoyed being in the moment on that bike and being free. For me, it was getting out of the chair. It was, other than being asleep in my bed, I was out of the chair for a certain amount of time, and it made me smile. And it was just the realization that, here's an activity that brought a smile back to my face and that I can do independently.
That's so cool. And for those of you who don't know, Ryan was in the Paralympics this past year, and you guys took bronze in the team event.
That is correct. Yeah.
What I'm trying to just impress upon people is, I'm somebody who's been there, and Dr. Frank Bavak was either been there or worked with a million people who have. I mean, the dark days, they come, man, and that storm. It just, honestly, I told people for the longest time, it's like you feel like you're in a house and you can't find the doors. And then sometimes you'll find the doors, but the knobs don't work. And it almost drives you crazy. You're in your head so much. And it really isn't until you just sort of surrender and give it up and go, okay, God, I get it. All right, this is what I am now. This is what I do now. This is how it works now. And that's a universal truth, like Dr. Frank was talking about earlier. But you're the example, right, of how far you can come. So tell others what you think and feel in those moments, because you know what they think and feel in those moments.
Well, what you'd said is just so true. And while you were saying those words, I was thinking, it's not that those have gone away forever. You still have those dark moments. I still do. Even though I get on my hand bike and I have goals that I've achieved and that I'm pursuing now, it doesn't mean that those dark moments, those depressing times, don't go away. And like you said, you get to the door and the doorknob's not working. There's going to be new battles that happen. Right now we have a daughter now who's 3 years old, and I'm realizing that there's going to be sad times in the future. I'm not going to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle, and that brings tears to my eyes. Being able to dance with my wife at a wedding that we go to. I mean, it's you do what you can, but it's not the same. But you have to realize, at least for me, I realize that all the good things that we have accomplished, all the things that we've made, like the family that I've made, all the experiences that I've been able to go through, those good outweigh any of those dark times, and those dark times, they're bleak. They suck, man. It is fucked up, but I have to bring myself back to the point where I say, you know what, seeing the smile on my daughter's face far outweighs the depression I have or the sadness I have that my legs aren't here with me today.
The question that comes to mind, I talked before about this idea that different things happen to us along the way. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big. That changes the way that we have to sort of look at ourselves or define ourselves. And you sort of danced around that subject just now, talking about how there are things that you can't do anymore, but there's also things that you can do. But if I asked you point blank, who are you now, today? How would you answer that?
I am a dad and a husband who's overcome some shit. I am a man that I think that can be an example for others on how to get out of the trench hole, and come out scathed, but utterly pretty much clean.
While I'm listening to you talk, Ryan, as the compassionate person that I am, and I think more people are striving to be, how can we help? As people who don't know what it's like to be in a chair, and don't have some of the limitations that are presented to you at a wedding dance and things like that, right? What can people do to be more helpful? What's the best version of us for you?
The best way to help out, especially somebody in a chair or somebody that you possibly think has a spinal cord injury, is let them be normal. They can open the door themselves. If they can't, they'll ask. They don't need to be the highlight. If they're out on the dance floor, let them dance the way they dance. Just let them be normal. That's the big thing, is I think we're all just striving to be normal.
Yeah, and so you in some ways you don't want any special attention, and you're telling me that when you need special attention, you're going to ask for it. And that's again, I think these are important things to talk about, right? Because we've all been in that spot where somebody's come up behind us in a wheelchair, and I feel compelled to want to help push them through or get the door for them, or do all the things that I think just a decent human being would want to do. But then you have that moment where you go, oh God, I know that they probably just want to do this themselves. Shit, I don't know the right thing to do. So that's why I think it's healthy to talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, it's a mental strain. It's been a mental strain on me through the years too, because like getting out of my car when I'm taking the chair out and putting it together, or taking it apart and putting it back in the car. I've had many instances where people will run up to me and go, is there anything that I can do? Is there anything that I can do to help you? And I'm looking at them going, no, I got here. Like you weren't there to help me get here. But at the same time, right. Like I need to, take a deep breath and realize inherently they're being kind. They're just being kind, and I get where they're coming from. But at the same time, just let me get gas.
Sure. No, it's a great thing to talk about, because you're right. Inherently, we're all just trying to do, the right thing, but the right thing may not be what we think it is. So, you mentioned being in the trenches, and you mentioned, the dark days still come. And I don't know if you feel this way, but here's how I feel about the whole thing, Ryan. I feel like that's really what figuring it out is about, is how to manage when the ruts get there, how to get yourself out of them, the application of the tools to get yourself out of the rut. So when you're in the trench, Ryan, what are your tools? What are some of the things that you're using, either that you've learned along the way or somebody's taught you, that help you get out of that trench?
So for me, I think it's not that I think. The Jim Valvano speech really came to me, and it was for cancer and how to get through cancer. But that Jim Valvano speech, it's a transcendent speech to me, because that hit me when I first got hurt, and I live it to this day. It's allowing me to feel my emotion. That's the biggest thing, is allowing me to feel my emotion. I still have dreams where I'm walking, and I'm not in the chair. And when I wake up and I open my eyes, I still have times where I'll swing to get out of the bed, like I did 10 years ago before I got hurt. And then there's that despair a little bit, and it's allowing me to feel that. That's one thing that I've always told myself, is it is okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad, right? In this instance, because you have to grieve. You have to grieve every chance you need it. But then once that emotion goes on, now let's make the best of it, and realize that today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be a good day, and it's all what I make of it. It's not what anybody else makes of it.
So Ryan, for you, is that like, so I'm really trying to drill down. I'm trying to get dudes to be specific. So when you get angry, do you talk to your wife? Do you meditate? Do you go for do you take your bike out and go ride? Do you go for a drive? What are some of your tools?
Every day, or every emotion is different, right? Sometimes I'll be honest with you, I need a good fucking cry. There's times that it is okay for me to get a good effing cry out there. And sometimes I just need to hit the bike. Sometimes I just need to watch a movie. It could be anything, but it's addressing that this is how I'm going to overcome that now. It's not, I'm doing this to avoid it. It's, hey, now I'm going to cry to get it out. Hey, I'm going to ride to get it out. I'm going to swim to get it out. I'm going to, it's hitting it head on. Like you said originally, it's going through it. Can I piggyback on something you said about support system a second ago?
Yes.
I think early on what I did that I don't think a lot of people realize when a traumatic event, for me it was a spinal cord injury, but a traumatic event happens, is it didn't just happen to me. A lot of times it happens to the people around us, right? And I think realized early on that I had to deal with the grief of losing my legs, but so did my family. My wife had to, my fiance at the time, this also happened to her. She was never going to go hiking with her fiance, or now husband, again. My brother and I were never going to go run or play basketball together again. I had to realize that this didn't just happen to me. This happened to people closest to me. My mom was not going to be able to dance with me at my wedding, for the mom and dad, or for the mom and son dance,
Right.
And I had to realize that, they need time to grieve too, because if they don't, they're just going to start resenting me.
And then just being okay to tell you that, right? Like, I'm sure it's very natural for Meg to get she could get angry sometime that you can't walk, right? There might be a situation at the airport where it would be more helpful if you could get out of that chair and do what you need to do, right? And so do you ever have conversations with her and allow her that space to be frustrated, or does she feel like she can come to you with that, or does she feel like there's no way I will ever tell Ryan that?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I think she does a really good job in my assumption, but I do know that, there's times where, just like the holiday season, putting up a star on the tree. We both kind of talk about it like, man, I just want to get up on that ladder and put the star on the tree. And she looks at me, I want you to get on this ladder and put the star on the tree. Yeah. It's just not the way it is. So we understand it, accept it, and appreciate that these are our roles now.
What kinds of things have you had to learn about your body while you say that?
I've got to learn different chairs, different posture, bowel, bladder. So you got to learn how to manage that. You got to learn how to deal with illnesses. I don't have proprioception in my butt, which is the feeling in my butt that tells me that, where my leg is, or if my leg is hitting something that's gonna hurt me. So like, say a hot pan, if I'm cooking, I could take a hot pan and put it on my lap and I'll never feel the heat from the hot pan. Doesn't mean that it's not burning me. It's absolutely scorching me. I have to be cognizant of that. So it's just different things that I have to think about mentally. Biggest cause of death for a person with a spinal cord injury is pressure sores. And I mean, that's a scary thing, because pressure sores can just pop up out of nowhere, and you gotta watch that infection and watch it from really doing some big time damage on your immune system. And then once you damage the immune system, now you got to look out for COVID.
Oh my God, man. It's a decent segue to the Paralympic experience, right? Because COVID was front and center. So you guys are in Tokyo and your team takes bronze. You were in a couple of individual races. Let me back up just a little bit, though, and ask you a little bit about the training to get ready. Like, how did you get selected to be a part of Team USA? Where were you when you got the phone call? How much free shit did they send you? Like, what is that whole experience like, right? Come on, Frank. We knew you wanted to know, right? How much shit did Adidas send you? What did you get?
How much swag? Like, you tell us about the swag.
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh, man. Well, the training started, the training started 4 or 5 years ago. And it was learning the sport. It's learning the sport. It started with wanting to go to World Cup races, becoming a national champion here in my own country. And then training is every single day. I'm on the bike 5 to 6 days a week, but there's also recovery. There's also recovery protocols. There's, nutrition. And it's funny, like I was a lot more strict on nutrition in 2017 and 2018 than I am in 2020. And that's just because I can know exactly what my body feels, what my body needs, and what my body can handle per workout, right? It's more innate than it was in 2017. I had to have a food journal in 2017. Now it's more, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Okay, I need carbs. I need this or that. So as you practice any sport, I think you start becoming more in tune with what your needs are. We had Paralympic trials in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this year. It was supposed to be last year, obviously, but it got postponed for a year. And I knew that my time after that time trial, which was about if I remember right, it was an 18-kilometer time trial, which is just balls to the wall, 18 kilometers as fast as you can possibly do it. And you're racing everybody, and there's only two male spots that are going to be automatic from that, and out of the 14 spots, right? But I knew that my time was good enough to be one of those top 2 spots. I knew it, but it wasn't official until you get the call, right? So there I am after the race. My wife and I are at the Airbnb, just trying to keep our mind from thinking, okay, did you make the team? Did you not make the team? When's the call coming? And then finally the phone number for the race director comes up, and you're like, oh my God, this is it. Oh my God, this is it. And all the years of training, all the turmoil, all the hardships, laying in a hospital bed, all that just comes to the forefront, and you're like, man, look how far we've come. And I say we because this is not a me thing. This was a journey that my wife had been on step for step ever since she told me, I am with you. It was a journey, and she got to be there and hear the race director say, hey, Ryan, you made it. You're on Team USA. You're going to represent your country. And the feeling that I had being able to don that uniform again, because in 2014, that uniform was taken away from me from the military. It was a realization that I get to represent my country again in something that is bigger than I am. Once we got there, we got a lot of swag.
I can only imagine. I wanted to ask about the level of competition between other para athletes. Is it more intense, less intense, the same? And the reason, walk me through that.
Are you talking about other sports or other countries in our sport?
Yeah, like, are you guys is the same kind of stuff happening in Paralympics that maybe happens in other sports where guys trying to cheat a little bit. Some guys are rough guys, some guys are tough guys, some guys just let all their talking live out on the track or the court or whatever they do. Do you get all the personalities in Paralympics in the sports the same way you would, with people who are, not, in the Paralympics? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The biggest thing I think with the Paralympics, at least especially with Paralympic cycling, is we've all been through some shit, man. We've all been through it, dude.
Thank you.
So
I was going to say, because you've all really gone through something. So you would imagine on some levels, some of that frivolous shit isn't there.
It's really not. But what's cool about it is we don't have to talk about it. We'll ask each other when we first meet them, hey, what the hell happened to you? And that's what we want. Like, if you see me in a chair, rather than, hey, is there anything I can help you with? Hey, what the hell happened to you? What'd you do? Why are you in that chair? I have so much more respect for that than anything else. So we do that to each other. And then, dude, we're competitors, man. We will shit talk each other. We'll have beers together. We will look at each other in the eye on the course with bad intentions. We'll find people that we respect and we'll let them in, or we'll it's just as competitive, if not more than anybody else. I mean, man, what happens if we wreck? What's the worst that can happen? I break my back again?
That was literally going to be my question: was there shit talking? And you answered that, and I'm happy to hear that there is.
There's a part of us where it's like that we look at the able-bodied athletes, as we call them, the able-bodied athletes, and it's like, oh, okay, you only have to train 4 hours a day, you only have to train 6 hours a day. All right, if we took you through the protocol that we have to go through just to get to our training regiment, you would have no idea.
Or no desire to continue, right? Because it's just so many extra steps, right? That's what you're alluding to.
Oh, totally. I mean, there's some people that have to battle with not necessarily me, but when you get a spinal cord injury, you don't sweat below your spinal cord injury below the level of your injury. So now they have to take into consideration when they're going through their training protocol, right? So Tokyo was hot and humid. So when you have people that don't sweat, especially quadriplegics who don't sweat, now they got to take on extra precaution and train through that, which is a huge diminishing factor in your performance when you can't cool your body.
God, I love you, man. Thank you for bringing us into your world and just helping us get a better understanding of what it's all about. I mean, it's my only goal is to help other people feel like they're not alone. I mean, that's it. And there's probably so many people who have come to us today and said, me too. And I really mean this, dude. Like you turned the light on for people in this last hour. You really have. One of the last questions I want to ask you about is when you're competing in the Paralympic Games and you win that medal. Obviously, it's not the one you want. Everybody wants gold, but you still walk away with some hardware. And say what you will, but only 3 countries got to do that. Can you talk us through that event and that race? Was it suspenseful? Was it unique in its stature? Can you walk me through it?
Yeah, for that medal event, it was a team relay. What's really cool about that is I had done 2 other events, the time trial and the road race, and those are individual events, right? What's cool about this is the only cycling event that is actually a team event. So you do what you can for the team, and then you're relying on the team to get you where you're going. We unfortunately had one of our top athletes crash earlier in the week, so he was not there. But we had a great backup, and Alicia Dana, who took over for him and just killed it. But what was really special for me, regardless of the medal, like you said, it's a medal, right? One of my buddies, one of my closest friends, Freddie De Los Santos, was also a part of that team, and me and him go back to my earliest days of racing, my first race in California, and my first race overseas in London for the Invictus Games. He is a huge mentor to me, and he saw me take my first pedal strokes, in racing, and was encouraging me from day one, saying, "You got a bright future. You got a bright future, my friend. You got a bright future." And when he crossed that line, he'd been to previous Paralympics, but I didn't realize that was the first time that he had gotten a medal as well. So Alicia is just a powerhouse, has multiple Paralympic medals. So it was great to share the medal stand with her, but also realizing that I was sharing that moment, my first moment, with Freddie, who was sharing his first moment. And it goes back to my first days racing. It was just a special, special moment. And we can call ourselves Paralympic medalists. Doesn't matter the color. It's just an exhilarating thing to look back and realize how many people have been in your path and why they have been there. And now I get to do that with somebody who's been there so close to me. And it was, I'm sorry, this is long, but it just made me think of everybody, including you, Mathew, that has been there along the way. And I felt like everybody was standing on that medal stand with me.
Oh, gosh, listening to you talk about it, I thought about, man, every morning Megan waking up and doing what she does, and the support system that you have around you, and now you're a dad, right? And so the last thing that I want to kind of wrap up with is your fathering perspective. When Frank asked you earlier, who are you now? You said, "No, I'm a dad." That was the first thing you said. So, what are your hopes and dreams there with that little girl, and what does being her daddy mean to you?
Dude, that's the world. That has changed my perspective on things. And when you did ask me to define, who I am, the cycling is not what defines me. A lot of people I hear say, "Hey, I'm doing this sport for my kids or whatever," and I just want to point out that I am not. I don't race. I don't train for my daughter, but one of the things that I do, and what I got in perspective when she was born, is that I want to be an example for her, that whatever goals and dreams she has, that if she wants to be an astronaut, if she wants to play in the WNBA, if she wants to ride bikes or be a mathematician, this is how you go about it. And I want to show her what you need to do. But man, just seeing her smile, just having her look up at me and sassily imitate me or what I do, man, it is my world now. Like, man, I don't know if anybody's seen Coco, but that song, "Remember Me," man, I sing that to her every single night, and I bawl when I sing it to her because I just want her to know that I remember her and I think of her no matter where I'm at, and I just want her to know that I'm proud of her and that I love her, and she just can feel it. I want to say it to her every single day, but I want her to know it from just feeling. So, man, brings tears to my eyes that Megan and I just made something so freaking amazing. I just don't want to screw it up.
No, you won't, man. You won't, right? And Dr. Frank, it's just a perfect way to wrap it up, because it's almost how we started, right? He talked about the first 10 years of his life being all about support, all about feeling love, and look at him now.
leave it to the shrink to bring it all back to, your mother. But that story that you told us early on about how, your mom took like the literal darkness in your home and almost made it into this like special opportunity. And here you are all these years later, and you have learned how to take your darkness and make it a special opportunity for yourself and the people around you. I can't think of a better way to tie things together than that.
Good on you, man. Just one of the most fantastic people in the whole world, and anybody around you is lucky to be in your light. Ryan, Pinney, thank you for being our guest tonight.
Dr. Frank, Mathew, appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Just, I love you. Thank you for just being you.
Thanks, man. Love you too. This is great, man. I didn't think I was going to get emotional, man. You pulled it.
You're an amazing person, dude. You're amazing. Say hi to Megan for me, please.
Absolutely.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Ryan. All right.
Bye, Ryan.
What a dude, huh?
Am I allowed to say that this is my favorite one?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have 3 goals with Learn from People Who Lived It. 1. To help you feel less alone. 2. Encourage you to seek out a coach, a therapist, a church, anyone who can help you get through your journey and find some healing. 3. When you're ready, share your story with us.